Well, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Zero Five Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Abernathy, and I'm here today with the executive pastor from my church, Chris Chalman from Central Baptist Round Rock. We're just going to talk about, from the staff and church leadership point of view, benefits and drawbacks of having a safety ministry. So, Chris, describe what your position within the church is and what you do.
Yeah. So, as executive pastor, I oversee our staff, oversee the ministries of the church, the finances of the church. And then I'm also in charge of our membership process and our Sunday morning group. So, kind of a big scope, a lot of things involved in that, but it kind of keeps my hands in really everything that happens in the church a little
Cool.
bit.
So, like, you're the puppet master.
That's pretty much that.
Nice. All right. So you've been in this position for how long?
About 3 years.
3 years. Okay. So before executive pastor, what was your position at?
Yeah, so I started out doing worship ministry and media, kind of helping with the worship team and getting things going there, and then went into more of the creative stuff, into video and web and all that kind of stuff. That went into role as connections pastor, overseeing groups and membership, and just kind of kept picking things up along the way until I started doing this.
So you pretty much worked in almost every ministry before.
Yeah. I've
Okay.
been around a lot. I've seen it all. I've been at the church since I was 10 years old. So this is
Okay.
a place I love and a people I love. And I'm so happy to get to do what I do.
Nice. That's pretty cool. Like to have been
Yeah.
here that long.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Man, I love it.
and now to be kind of at the top and supervising and
Yeah. It was not my plan or my design, but God knows best. So
yeah,
we just follow along.
that's awesome, man. So we at Central, we've had our safety ministry going on for almost 8 years
Yeah.
now. And what do you remember about kind of the initial process of getting a safety team started?
Yeah. So really, I remember that being very much a volunteer led thing. I don't know that it was necessarily something that the staff was looking for or leadership was looking for, but we had people in our congregation that said, I have a skill set, I have experience that I could be really helpful in this area. Is this something that you think that our church could use? And our leadership at the time, really saw that as a great opportunity to use the people that God has brought to our church
Mhm.
and allow them to use the skills that they have. And so uh, it was very much volunteer run. So not a ton of organization and processes, and a lot of that was still pretty new 8 years ago, and so they were really kind of learning as they went
Mhm.
to put people together and to start building a team, getting awareness out there that this is something that we're doing and we need volunteers for it. And
Yeah.
the cool thing was you start to see people kind of come out that weren't involved really in the church before, but this gave them an opportunity to step in and
Nice.
use the skills that they had. So started building a team from there, and slowly but surely, we kind of kept adding word organization and processes and defining what this was going to be. And the team has really kept growing and growing and become a huge part of what we do now on Sunday mornings and all throughout the week. So,
Cool. So I remember when the team first stood up. I'd been in the fire department just a handful of years, and so I wasn't regular because of my shift work.
yeah.
And I remember Wes Tanksley coming up to me. He's like, "Hey, we're starting this team. Do you want to be a part of it?" And just from my military background and what I did, I was like, "No, this is going to be a bunch of yahoos carrying weapons at church, and I want no part of that."
Uh-huh.
And so I don't remember the initial kind of putting out information on how that we were even starting this. So how did that process happen where you kind of advertised it to the church?
Yeah, it was pretty the way I remembered it, it was pretty kinda underground. It was really word of mouth conversations just like that,
Mhm.
with you, where people who were involved would approach people. I don't remember it being like a mass call out to the whole congregation. I think it was really more, talking to people that we knew had experience as a first responder or military experience, and, seeing who might be interested in jumping in. So we were a little more I guess just kind of under the radar when we
Okay.
first started,
All
and
right.
then the more kind of mass calls to people came when there was a little more organization to
Yeah.
it.
Okay. Was that a conscious decision by the leadership, or it just kind of
I
happened?
think that was really just kind of how it happened.
Okay.
I don't know that it was that was kind of the thought out. This is the direction we should go. I think that's just kind of organically how it grew.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was there any initial apprehension by any of the staff that we were going to have armed security on campus?
You know, I don't I don't remember hearing about any of that. I think, and some of it is I think our leadership did a really good job of talking about the heart behind it.
Hmm.
If people know why, they can really get behind it a whole lot better. And
Yeah.
and so our leadership did a great job of explaining the heart behind what this ministry was going to be, what this team was trying to accomplish. And, it's not just guys that want to carry guns around, but they're guys with hearts to protect and,
Hmm.
and to serve and to create a safe, welcoming environment for everybody who's going to come on our campus. So, I don't remember there being a lot of apprehension. I remember, our staff really being excited that this was something that we were going to be able to do and that people were going to be involved in the church who otherwise didn't feel like they had a place.
Yeah. And that I do remember that we had I missed the initial team meeting, and we had the first range day.
Mm,
And at that first range day, there was, I mean, I think we had like 19 guys out there.
wow.
I'd only met maybe two or three of them.
Yeah.
And so I was like, man, I didn't know you go to Central. I didn't
Yeah.
know you go to Central.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of a cool thing. Was like, man, these are folks I've never seen around. And I had dabbled a little bit in the children's ministry, helping volunteer with that. And
Yeah.
you know, you know my joke. Like I can't teach, preach, sing, and I don't have enough patience to deal with kids other than my own. And my kids were small at that time, so
Yeah.
patience was at a premium.
Yeah.
Um, so so the team got started, volunteer based, kind of extreme lack of organization,
Mm,
almost kind of freestyling as we went. I do remember that of sitting down with kind of just taking my background and saying, "Hey, we should probably do these things." Jim Moorhead was our executive pastor at the
yep.
time. What uh, what was kind of Jim's push? What was Jim's role? Because I remember him being kind of our primary point of contact.
Yeah.
How did he sell that to our senior leadership, like Mark and the elders? And then what was kind of his thought process that you remember?
I think it was important that we're seeing the things that are going on around us, right? When you
Hmm.
see the shape of the world around us, and you see that there's a need for somebody to look out for our church, and he had a lot of foresight to see um, what was coming, and that this was a needed ministry, or this needed to be handled in some way.
Hmm.
There's various ways that the churches try to um, you know organize
Hmm.
people and keep their congregation safe. But I think for us, everything that we do is so relational, and we want to use our people in every way, and the skills and the experiences that they have. So he really had the foresight to see this is an important ministry, but also this is needed.
Hmm.
It's needed for the day and age that we live in. Um, but I think he also saw um, without proper leadership and organization, it could be a little chaotic.
Yeah.
Things could, you know, they could get a little out of control. It could be something that is not a benefit to the church and could actually, be something that does cause people to, be afraid or be uneasy about what's going on. And
Yeah.
so I think him seeing that leadership was needed there, and that really what would be helpful is if we had someone on staff
Hmm.
in charge of that would really be the best way to go. And that's when we came to you.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
so man, and I remember around that time too, it was COVID.
Yeah.
Um, and so the world was very different. And
Yeah.
so I remember had conversations with Jim and him asking like, "Hey, you're on the front lines of this COVID thing. How do we meet for church?
Yeah.
How do we do this?" And I kind of gave him my my side of things. And then I think it was like a year later, 2021, he was like, "Hey, what would you think about?" And I hadn't thought about that, but I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll do it." And
Yeah.
then, I stood on pins and needles for a while waiting for that. Church decision-making process takes a while.
Sure, yeah,
So,
we're slow. We're
yeah,
slow,
so
so
but then, yeah, one day he called me up. He's like, "Hey, if you're willing, you start October 1st."
Yeah.
And it was October 1st, 2022 was my first day.
Wow.
And, so I remember our organization initially was, Jim Tomlinson and I. Jim Tomlinson was really the head. He was the
Yeah.
guy that really pushed to have this,
Yeah.
and he was kind of leader. And then he had some personal things going on, so him and I developed our SOP, our training program, and things like that. And then when Jim kind of said, "Hey, we want you to be on staff and really truly organize this," I was all about that because just my background. What was do you remember much of the decision-making process on how are we gonna bring in a staff member? How do we make this a ministry?
Yeah. Well, I mean, honestly, I think your mindset for it was what made that really easy. Because you had the mindset that this isn't just a team.
Mhm.
This isn't just a group of people. Like this really is an opportunity for ministry, and I think that's what made that really easy. Our staff could get behind that
Mhm.
really quick because you saw the deeper levels there, not just of the impact that the team could make on our congregation, but the impact that you, as you led them, you could make in their lives and people who maybe struggle to find community at church.
Yeah.
In other ways, they had a place.
Yeah.
They had a place to belong and to be useful and to be poured into and to rally around each other and to be that iron sharpening iron as they're around each other. Um, but I think because of your heart and the way that you wanted to lead that ministry, that was easy for our staff to get around.
Alright.
There was no hesitation around that because we saw, this isn't just a team that's going to be kind of outside the church and they'll be over there doing whatever they want to
Mhm.
do. But no, this is a part of our church. These are
Yeah.
our people. So man, that's a big deal.
Yeah. I did not pay him to say that, by the way, so yeah, no, but that's, that's how I've always felt about
Yeah,
this because, when I got started with the team, I was fresh out of the military, firefighter, didn't fit in with the other ministries,
yeah,
and once this team came along, I had a sense of purpose in the church,
yeah,
and, we've talked a little bit about my history with the church has
yeah,
not always been great, and that's something that I have always appreciated, from Central was that Central's always been willing to involve people, find ways to involve
yeah,
people that don't fit in with your traditional ministries. And so, like we brought in Brandon,
yeah,
who's also a veteran,
yeah,
and he's got so much talent in so many areas that in Central's like, we're gonna find a place for you.
yeah,
And now he's our facilities guy. He does local missions
yeah,
and I think that's something that's really, really important for churches to think about is the safety ministry isn't just protection. It's
yeah,
not just security. It is a ministry not from within your church
yeah,
in bringing people in that were wallflowers.
yeah, yeah. I mean, because you can bring in, you can bring in people from the outside.
Mhm.
There's people you can hire to do that. There's different ways you can go about it. Um, but no one's going to care about your people the way that your people do.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that's huge for
Yeah.
us.
Exactly. And so, kind of along those lines, what type of impact individually, like individuals, but also within our congregation, what kind of impact have you seen the safety ministry have?
Yeah, yeah. So I get comments all the time from people that even without interacting with anybody, just seeing the presence of our safety team helps them kind of just take a breath and feel like, okay, somebody's looking out for me.
Mhm.
So somebody's making sure that we're safe, that we're okay. And on even deeper than that, the ways that medical situations have been handled. I mean that's what really run into more than anything
Yeah.
is those type of situations where something happens that we didn't expect. And I'll tell you, from a leadership standpoint, to know that you guys are on it, that that's not something that I have to be in charge of and I have to be ready to handle. Knowing that you guys are there and that you're going to handle everything, you're trained to do it. You know how to handle the situation. That is that puts my mind at ease. That really takes a lot off of the mental load that I carry
Mhm.
as a leader in the church. So I'm super grateful for that. But even there's stuff that happens. We had something happened recently where um, somebody left a service that was upset, and one of our safety team members noticed that happened, alerted me to it, and I was able to check on that person and care for them, that I would have missed. And
Mhm.
that's just a ministry opportunity because we have somebody that's just looking out,
Yeah.
watching the room, seeing what's going on, and observes what's happening, and lets us know when we're able to care for people.
Yeah.
So, man, it's all. I mean, we think about we're preparing for the worst and the bad things that could happen in our church, but and y'all do that, and you
Mhm.
prepare for that, and you train for it, and I'm so grateful for that. But just practically what happens on a week to week basis, there's just so many little touches that you get to have because you're watching.
Mhm.
You're seeing what's happening. You know people, you recognize people, and you help us as pastors make those connections.
Yeah.
And man, that's huge to me.
Awesome. Yeah, and like, I know for a fact there's a couple of families that have joined Central because of the safety
Yeah,
ministry, veteran families, that yeah, the Flynns and the Coles,
yeah,
that they're all on our team now,
yeah,
and they joined not just to join the team, but they joined because they showed up here and they saw our team members looking around, alert,
yeah.
situationally aware, and they're like, that's I haven't seen that at church
Yeah,
before."
yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Well,
it
and I love because I get to see new people and I get to bring people in and try to point them to places where they can connect and they can serve. Uh, I love that there's a place where I can send people like
Mhm.
that, that have that kind of background or experience or man, I don't know that they're just kind of a little outside of the norm of your regular
Yep.
churchgoer, whatever that normal kind of person
Right.
is. But man, I love that I have a place to send them.
Mhm.
Like, man, that you're gonna love this. You're gonna
And we'll
connect with
and
with
we'll
these
take them.
guys. Yeah,
Yeah, we'll
yeah.
take them.
I love it. I love it.
So, yeah, and that's, um, as a veteran too, that this ministry for myself, and I know for Grant, who's also part of Zero Five, and for Tyler, those 2 guys are combat veterans,
Yeah,
and I know for them, we've experienced some very bad things, and we've learned lessons a very hard way, and there's a lot of redemption in having a place that we can take the skill sets. When you get out of the military, nobody tells you that you've been trained for the X amount of years to be able to kill people.
yeah,
You can't translate that outside of the military. You really can't. But the safety ministry has been a place that we can take that skill set, take that knowledge, and apply it in a way that saves lives rather than takes lives. And there's been a lot of redemption for us. Like I know Grant. Every time we train, man, it fuels him.
yeah,
And his wife actually kind of told me, she's like, "Hey, please continue to include Grant in the training because he comes home just a totally different guy after training."
yeah,
And it's that's a cool thing, and that's the beauty of the safety ministry.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. We serve a God who redeems, man.
absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, and not just because you can sing or you could teach or
that's
you could
right.
preach or
Yeah,
you're good with kids. It's God gives us all skill sets
yeah,
of varying types, and I think Jared spoke about it a couple months ago that we can't all be a hand, we can't all
yep,
be the eyes, we can't all be this, and I don't want to be the mouth of the church.
yeah,
I don't. Too many four-letter words come out of my mouth that aren't kosher in church. uh, but like I kind of joke that the safety team, we can be the fist.
yeah,
We can be the fist if it's necessary. We can also be the handshake,
yeah,
and so that's kind of cool. Have you seen, so over the course of the 8 years that we've been here, including the initial 5 years or so, and then the recent 3 years that we've had, me on staff,
yeah.
has there been any situations or any complaints from the congregation or anything that really was kind of a negative
Mm.
of the safety ministry?
I don't know that there have been complaints. I think there's always this a balance.
Mhm.
The in the church world and the safety world, we're trying to find this balance of man, if we're not a fortress, we're not trying to keep people out. But we want to do all the practical and functional things that we can to be as safe as possible, to be prepared
Mhm.
for anything that might happen. And so there is a balance to find there, and it's probably going to be different for every church, depending on what the leadership wants and what the congregation can handle. And we've done this kind of slowly over time,
Mhm.
and our safety ministry has earned trust, where people know that what you guys are doing is important, and you have the heart behind it. Even with that balance, I think the team has done a really good job of being the face. I mean, you guys are out in the parking lot, you're out around the campus, you're going to be seen, but you're not just like this, stoic, security guard that,
Secret Service
yeah,
looking.
yeah. Man, you're out there greeting people, you're welcoming people in. And so like even just little things like that help to earn trust. And so when we're trying to do that balancing act of figuring out what we can do, we can cheat a little bit more towards some of the more visible
Mhm.
type of things, and our congregation knows that we're doing this out of love for them, and out of wanting to be good stewards of the resources we have, um, but also out of their safety in mind.
Yeah. That's one I remember getting this summer. We had the reports of the group that was Al Qaeda affiliates
Mm,
that were going around and snooping around and collecting intel at other churches. And I remember I had asked, "Can we lock all the doors with the exception of our magnetically controlled doors?"
yeah.
And I remember there was a little bit of kickback on that at first. Just the whole like,
Yeah,
why is the church locking doors?
yeah,
And but you're right. Like it was a very simple explanation
yeah,
when people would come up and say, "Hey, why do I have to go to the left door?
yeah,
Um, why can't I go through all these doors?" And when I told him, I was like, "Well, we kind of have a security thing that we're keeping an eye on right now. This is just so we can have control of the doors if anything happens."
yeah,
The congregation was very much like, "Oh, okay, well, thank you."
yeah, yeah,
And that was kind of cool.
yeah,
That was really kind of cool. But also the trust from the church leadership
yeah,
was huge because that's a big ask
yeah,
to
right.
say, "Hey, can we lock the doors 10 minutes after service
Yeah,
starts?" Because you know me, that's not something I really want to do.
yeah,
I really don't want to do that. Nobody wants to do that, but
yeah,
we kind of had to.
yeah,
And now we're back to where all the doors are open.
yeah,
But that was a huge exercise of trust, I'd
yeah,
say.
yeah, yeah. But it's been earned. It,
Mhm.
it, it gets earned over time, and then when we're able to give an explanation, like I said, everybody wants to know why.
Yeah.
And if we have a why, I would say that's one thing from my perspective that I've really appreciated is the way you and your team think through things. It's not, you're not just throwing things out there.
Mhm.
You're not just, well, we'll see what happens, but like, man, it's thought through. You've researched it. You before you even bring things to me and up to my level, you've already thought it through 12 different ways
Mhm.
to make sure this really is the best thing. And so, I'm not having to second guess, like, well, does Mike really know what he's doing here? Or is this really the best thing for us? We've got to decide as an operations team, is this the best, use of these funds,
Mhm.
this money at this time? Maybe we got to kick it down the road a little bit, or, maybe not now, but the way that you and your team prepare and plan and have everything organized, man, it makes it so much easier for me to trust and to know that you guys are doing the best you possibly can.
And we appreciate that trust.
Yeah.
We really do. And that's I know that's something amongst the safety team members that they really appreciate how much trust the church has put in us
Yeah.
as a ministry. We do training that here on campus, and we've done drills and stuff here on campus
Yeah.
that most churches would shake their head at.
Yeah.
But it's been really cool that you've trusted us to do these type of things because you know that where our heart's at
Yeah.
on it. And another thing I kind of wanted to ask you about is I've talked with a lot of safety team leaders from other churches, some staff, some just volunteer.
Mhm.
And one of the biggest struggles is getting funding, getting
Yeah.
financial support from church leadership for training, for materials, for security measures. Kind of what's uh, we have a very unique thing at Central,
Yeah.
that we get a lot of financial support, and so why is that? Why have you decided to put as much faith in us as you have
Yeah.
financially? And do you have any second guesses about the amount of financial support you've given
Mm.
the safety ministry?
Yeah. Well, so, I mean, as a church, one of our values is safe places.
Mhm.
And part of that is, there's the emotional vulnerability that we want people to be able to come as they are.
Mhm.
There's that, but it's also we really believe that people are going to come and experience community and experience the love of Christ when they're able to kind of let their guard down a little bit. They
Yeah.
feel safe in all ways, and so since that's a value for us, we feel like we've got to put resources into it. We it's not just something you can say.
Mhm.
You've got to put actually action and money behind it, and so that it's easy to say yes to at least something.
Mhm.
I think we started adding it into the budget a few years ago that
Yeah.
that was its own department and something that we were allotting a certain amount of funds for. So for us, that it starts from what our values are,
Mhm.
and and that's not to say that churches that don't put money into it don't value safety. I'm sure that they do, um, but we just really felt like, okay, if we're going to say this, this is who we are and who we want to be, then we've got to put some action behind it.
Yeah.
And when we saw when we would put money into it, then we got a camera system.
Mhm.
When we saw that that was really helpful, and we were able to figure out things that happened on campus and be prepared for when the money that we put into it kind of started coming back in returns of either ministry opportunities or actually protecting our people,
Mhm.
and investigating things that happen around our campus. Well, yeah, that's a little easier to keep putting money into that because we're seeing the return.
Mhm.
And we see that, in the facilities improvements that we made, and we see that even investing in people, that we're able to allow our people to train and hone skills and be better at something. And while they do that, they're building relationships and
Mhm.
friendships and going deeper with each other. So it's just a win all around
Yeah.
for us. So that's why it's important for us to keep putting money into our
Yeah.
safety ministry.
And man, I love it. I mean, not because you give us money, but because it takes money for training,
Yeah.
to have training. But for folks like us, training is our fellowship.
Mhm.
We when we train, that is building our community. And in the military and in the fire service, when we train, mistakes happen. That's how people get nicknames. That's how, and that's how that community gets built is through operations and through training. At church, we don't get a whole lot of security incidents,
Yeah.
and we get a handful of medical incidents, but not a lot. And mistakes still get made,
Yeah.
and
Sure.
that's how nicknames have come about. And but we've kind of built this really cool community. We label ourselves the land of misfit toys, but we embrace it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of cool. But it's a lot of that stems from the church is so supportive of us, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
If you were if you were to speak directly to church leaders that are maybe they're on the fence about building a safety ministry or on the fence about, I don't know if we can take money from here to put towards that, what would you tell them?
Yeah, man, I'd say it's worth it. Start small,
Mhm.
start with something. Start putting a team together, organizing volunteers. Find your people that have an interest, that have the skill set. Um, you know, Talk to people like you that can kind of help organize it. Like you've done it, so you
Mhm.
don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like
Right.
people have already put these kind of things in place. So
Mhm.
don't feel like you're alone. Like you're not trying to do something that's never been done before. So get resources, but start somewhere. It is a ministry. I mean, just like we have ministry for youth and kids and worship and men and women and all other widows and everything else.
Mhm.
This is another section of the congregation that needs to be ministered to. So it's not this outside thing. It's another part of the church.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, we love it. We
Yeah.
love being a part of it, and I've yet to run across anybody that's been a part of our safety ministry, whether they're still with it or they've left at some point. I've never had anybody say, "Man, that was dumb. That was
Yeah.
a bad idea."
Yeah. Yeah.
And and again, like I really truly appreciate Central having a spot for a guy like me,
Yeah.
and that's been powerful and redemptive for me personally. My wife and kids are very appreciative of that as well. And if you're whether you're a safety team leader or a church leader, like Chris says, there's a lot of ministry opportunity in having a safety ministry and supporting your safety ministry. And security is kind of the byproduct
Yeah.
of that.
Right.
That we have this group of people that are well trained, well prepared, have thought these things through,
Yeah.
and that creates that chance for the congregation to come in and drop their guard.
Yeah.
And it's hard to hear the Holy Spirit drawing on your heart when you're on guard.
Yeah.
It really is. And so that, I've never been one to be able to raise my hands and close my eyes during worship. But when I'm in the worship service and I'm on duty and I watch everybody else do that,
Yeah.
that's worship for me.
Yeah.
That really is. Because you don't want me singing.
Yeah.
Yes. But Chris, man, thank you so much for taking the time
Yeah.
to talk. And folks, if you're in the Central Texas area, we do have an Austin area security and safety resource group. We meet every other month. In fact, we're next July. We're going to be meeting here.
Right.
We're hosting it here at Central.
Right.
So you can reach out to me through Substack or through my email, the 05 Safety Training, just like the podcast. But Chris, thanks again. And for everybody else, just remember what we're here for. It's to protect his people and give him the glory. We'll see you next time.